Hey, good morning. Hi, everybody. Great to see you here. And for those of you who are watching this on demand, so I mean the recording, welcome as well. Today, we're going to look at a very interesting topic, one topic that I really, really like, and it's all about books. In IELTS Speaking, we often have to talk about books that we have read or children's books or our favorite book. So we're going to look at that topic today. Fantastic. Good. Let's see who is first in the classroom. Oh, Chu Fengying. Hello. Good morning, Elena. Very early. Well done. Hi, Teresa. Nice to see you. And Abhilasha. Some familiar faces now. Sana's here. Great to see you, Sana and Emily. It's good to start recognizing, well, I've recognized quite a few of you for a while, but Ruby, Maria, Anatima, Nicole, welcome. Sneha, nice to see you. And Hital and Sunil, a lot of people coming in. Great, good morning. Joy Miramonte, nice to see you. And Khalid as well, brilliant. Mohammed Daham, good morning to you, sir. Nice, great. So today, as I said, we're going to look at the wonderful topic of reading and books, favorite books. I'll be talking about those a little bit. For those that you have just arriving, and for those of you watching the recording, just a very quick reminder to let you know through this time of COVID-19 and Corona, if you're struggling for materials to study, I do have an online course. It's on Udemy. You can go there. I'll put in the link later. And you can study through for weeks and weeks and weeks. There's lots of materials to help you get ready for your IELTS test, whenever that may be, because we don't know, right? Most tests have been cancelled in April, but fingers crossed, in May, they will be up and running again. Right. Great. Nice to see you all. Malone, I will. Thank you very much. I'll check my inbox from Zimbabwe. Hi, Mol. Very good to see you here. And William from Hong Kong. Lovely. Jolly from Taiwan. Brilliant. Mariko says it's a great course. Nice to hear that, Mariko. Thank you. Hi, Jane. Good morning. And Emmy is full of beans. Great. Always practicing new language. Now, brilliant. Today, talking about books. Okay. Now, somebody on Tuesday had this great expression. They said to curl up with a book. And I love to curl up, right? It's like when you're curling up. You've got your book and you're curling up, all comfortable. I love to curl up on the sofa. Last night, I was curling up on the sofa when I heard this clapping noise outside. It was about 8 o'clock. And I had to stop reading, go to the window. And of course, at 8 o'clock here in Spain, everybody leans out of their window and starts clapping for all the people in the healthcare sector. The nurses, the doctors, the cleaners, the admin staff, everybody who's on the front line working to help us. So as I'm here, I'd also just like to say a big applause and thank you to all of you, those of you that are in nursing or doctors or anywhere, admin, whatever it is in the healthcare. Thank you very, very much for all of your work and dedication. Brilliant. So, curling up. Oh, that reminds me. Yes, curling up with a book. I love to curl up with a book. Yesterday, I was curling up with a book. And this evening, I would like to curl up with a book. Now, what's going on? What's going on is I'm practicing. And this is one of the most effective ways of practicing vocabulary. When you learn a new word, especially a verb, but not only, use it straight away. Just say, literally say 2 or 3 sentences. Put it in the past, in the present, in the future, conditional. And it's an amazing technique. It's so simple, right? But what you're doing is practicing the word in different contexts, because research shows us you need to use the vocabulary in at least 4 different contexts before it goes into your long-term memory. So how simple is that? You just say, I love curling up with books. I would like to curl up with a book. I've curled up with many books over the past few months. straight away, 3 context. It's a really simple, great way to do it. How do you spell curl up? Say it exactly like that. That's exactly right. That's right. To curl up with a book just means to kind of, I don't know if I can show you. You know, when you read, sometimes you're all warm and comfortable, not like an old man, but, you know, curling up. It's the idea of curl, like a cat curls up, goes into a ball. Right? Great. Joginda. Exactly. That's great. Brilliant. Very, very good. So that's curling up. What does it mean? It means to go into a little ball, but to get comfortable with the book. And so I know, Nicole. Yes. Brilliant. Guys, do contact each other for searching for speaking partners. Mahesh is looking for a speaking partner. Anybody wants to help him, go and get in touch with him directly or answer each other on the message. That's brilliant. Okay, so we've got Marfag. Great. Good morning. Nice to see you here. Hi, nice to see you as well. I do apologize. I really need somebody to teach me Vietnamese. It's one of those languages I do not control even a little bit. Now, today's topic then, all about reading books. Let me share with you a few books, just to begin, right, to get us warmed up. This book is a great book, The One Thing. It's non-fictional. It's a professional development, self-development book. It's all about productivity. So if you're one of these guys who are into being productive, starting to define your career or your business or whatever it is, this is great. The One Thing. It helps you get focused. It's by Gary Keller, and it's the New York bestseller, New York Times bestseller, and the Wall Street Journal bestseller. Gary Keller. Phenomenal book. It's so easy to read, right? It even begins with a nice little phrase. If you chase 2 rabbits, right, you can guess what happens. You don't catch either. It's about focus, productivity. Brilliant book. I really enjoyed it. So, books. Let's see. Olga, you're late. You know what happens when you're late, right? You have to go and stand outside for 5 minutes. But you can't, so you have to stay inside. Okay, brilliant. So let me just bring in some notes. I'm going to share with you today some language. We're going to share with each other some language, but I also want to share some nice resources with you. I've got a couple, actually 3 websites that I think you'll like. As well as the Fluency Gym at the end, remember? Great, brilliant. So I will come in here. We're going to talk about books. Did you know, and this is just a bit of interest here, maybe I can share this with you, there are many different book days, national days. And I didn't know this, but there are different national book days and international book day. There's World Book Day, International Book Day, Children's Book Day, the Book and Copyright Day, loads of them. Just take a quick look. Let me show you over here. I'll close all my secret toys. Not secret toys. These are all my thingies where I put all my resources, teaching resources, all my favorite websites, all that vocabulary, idioms, grammar, pronunciation. But of course, you're not interested in that. You probably are. World Book Day coming on. We've just missed it. Okay, sorry, but we've missed World Book Day. But go and check out these websites. This is the Literacy Trust, and they talk about national literacy. Now, there's a good word, right? Literacy. So reading books promotes literacy. That's good stuff. Good language. It talks about the book, the events, World Day resources. Look at this. If you want to come here and get resources, if you're working in primary schools, for example, reading for pleasure, posters, lots of free stuff here. Secondary school teachers, Michelle Obama, supporting literacy, and there straight away you could be something to read and talk about Michelle Obama supporting literacy. Could be a nice thing to talk about in your IELTS test. So there's some really interesting stuff here. It's an interesting website, Women in Leadership. Nice. I'll share these with you on the paper later. This is World Book Day. Now, this is on the 23rd of April. Guys, that is next week. 23rd of April is World Book Day. There's loads of stuff here. Celebrate stories, cracking Easter books. Cracking means really good, right? Really good Easter books. There's a question and answer with Robert Muchamore. Muchamore? Is that really his name? Muchamore. We have some funny names in English, don't we? I'm sure Robert was teased at school because of his name. Activity of the week. Get crafty. Free audiobooks. Look at this. Free to stream. World of Stories. You could just come in here, choose, especially for, this might be for your children, but, oh, look at that, Elmer. I want my youth to read these to my daughter. Oh, look at these. These are great. And it seems that a lot of these are free. So if you've got kids, look at that. If you've got kids, now you can't hear this, but actually you've got the free audio streaming there. That is so nice. If you've got kids, that might be for you. I'll share them in a minute. And the other one is the World Book and Copyright Day, 23rd of April. Oh, this one's next week. Sorry, I'm getting confused. This is the United Nations ones. It's about books, a window into the world, celebrating the World Book and Copyright Day. Why is it Copyright Day? Look at that. Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur is the capital for the World Book capital. Oh, that's fantastic. Brilliant. Any of you from Malaysia, you should be proud of what you've got going there. Isn't that fantastic? Right. Brilliant. Very, very, very nice. Okay. We've got some nice expressions coming up from guys here. I'm fond of flicking a book. Flicking through a book. That's a really nice expression. Let me add that to my list. We'll put it on later as well. I'm fond of flipping through a book. We often use words like skimming or flipping or browsing. Flipping through a book. I'll share all this with you later. Brilliant, nice. Books, I will suggest some books in a moment. Yes, copyright is a problem in Vietnam. Exactly. Now, this is a topic you might get in IELTS, is about copyright of books. Should we protect books? Should we pirate books? To pirate means to copy, right? Brilliant. Okay. Now, I didn't know this. The World Book Day was chosen because it is the day Shakespeare and Cervantes died. Oh, that's interesting. Right. Brilliant. I can see the speaking partner topic, boom, has shot up. No problems. That's great. Guys, you sort it out. Absolutely brilliant. Leafing is good. To leaf through a book is another one. Very, very good. You can say to leaf through a book. I'll make a note of that because a leaf is a page, right? A page in a book, a leaf. I know it's from a tree, but a leaf in a book. So turn over a new leaf. Do you know that expression? To turn over a new leaf means to begin anew. So if you've done lots of mistakes in your life and you think, I'm going to start fresh, start new, I'm going to turn over a new leaf. So to start new, very often criminals come out of prison and say, I'm going to turn over a new leaf. And maybe they think, I'm going to curl up with a book and leaf through the book and flip through the book. But flip through is very quickly, right? You also need to read the book as well. Excellent. Great. I love it. Big fans of reading. Oh, now this is so true. I like this, Hoa. I love the smell both of old books and newly printed ones. That's lovely. Nice collocation, newly printed books. And it's true, that smell. This one is quite an old book. It's so old, the dust gets there. Brilliant. Right, somebody from the Philippines, currently in Rwanda. Brilliant, great. Thank you very much, Shara. Thank you for joining us. Right, okay. Yes. I think there's a large number of set text to read. Well, yes and no. So let me come back to you. I'm just going to share with you with books, right? I'm very proud of this. I want to share with you because we talked about Kuala Lumpur. When I was in Kuala Lumpur, I worked in Kuala Lumpur for 3 years, and we did some projects with the local people. We did projects with the Orang Asli, who are some of the native people who have been the kind of the Aborigines who've been in Kuala Lumpur, in Malaysia for years and years and years, for donkey's years. And they don't get the same educational opportunities as other people. And so we did a project to help develop books based on their heritage stories, based on their culture. It was amazing. I think I've still got, did I close the window? Maybe I closed the window. No, I didn't. Okay, let me just show you this just for a moment. I think it's this one. We did this, right? Storytelling. So I worked with the British Council, great organization, and we did educational development projects, storytelling for imagination. So we worked with these children and teachers to take their original stories in Orang Asli language and convert them into books. And they made their own little books that they could then use in English, the native language, and also Malay language. And they then use them in the schools with their children. It was mainly in Selangor, and we did it together with the Hong Long Fiat Foundation. Brilliant. And then we did the Tok Bali Literacy Project. Look at that. It was great. We had so many people raising awareness of literacy. So there's today's word, literacy. I think literacy and, come back, and literature, right, are two very important words. So talking about words, let's come in. I'm going to share with you my little screen over here once again. Now bear with me. Okay. Should I make it bigger? Hey, that helps, doesn't it? Great. Ooh, look at that. Right, literature. There is a great word, literature. And you've got literacy. Literacy is the ability to read. To read, okay? Literature is just the field of books. I don't mean a field with grass. I mean the area of books. Related words. I'm going to look at this website in a minute with you. But different kinds of books, okay, that we can talk about and look at. Let me make this bigger. We can talk about fictional books, which are stories and novels, or non-fictional. So your fictional novels, you can be thinking about crime, romance, thrillers, and suspense, right, where you don't know what's going to happen. Comedy, if they're funny. Action, sci-fi, if it's about science fiction and strange things like aliens. Of course, you can talk about books that have been made into a film, all of those. And when it comes to non-fictional, well, non-fictional, you could talk about biographies. You know, if you've read the biography of Nelson Mandela, or the biography of Kennedy or Tony Blair, or famous people, often they write biographies. Books about your hobbies, about how to shoot a photograph, how to design a website, how to play chess. There's lots of books there. There are historical books, right? Notice historical is the adjective. Any book about history, maybe about something that happened in your country's history. There's personal development books like the one I showed you, The One Thing. And there's books where it's maybe connected to your field of work, maybe a kind of reference book, but not really a reference book. So something where you read the whole book. So not a dictionary, but maybe something of economics. What did I write? Can't see it. A history of economics. Or what about a recipe book or a travel guide, right? Maybe your favorite book's a recipe book or a travel guide. Lots of different things we could talk about, right, with books. Okay, I'm going to show you this one in a moment. But let me come back, because my question now for you, to get you all back on topic, is tell us about one of your favorite books. William, Chicken Soup for the Soul. So that is non-fictional. So it's not fictional stories, because most of the stories there are real stories of people's lives. This is a self-development book, really. It's personal development. Okay. Sometimes we call it, let me add it to my list. We said personal development. Sometimes it's called self-help. Self-help. Let me just go back and show you that. Can you see that, William? Personal development or self-help, right? Great books. It was Hansen, right? Jack Hansen, if I remember. Great books. Brilliant. So let's see. Can we say all facts are categorized as non-fiction? Yes, Saeed. Yes, basically yes. Brilliant. Love it. Some nice ideas here. Venus, reading expands your knowledge. Very, very good. Great. So Huda, first time from Tunisia. Welcome. Brilliant. Nice to see you here. Now, as a teacher, Zulfiye, reading historical books can be compulsory. It probably should be. Yes. Great. We can talk about textbooks. Jayanta's right. Textbooks are more the books you have at school. So course books, yes. Now, course books are more study books, but you can also talk about them. Now, here's a classic. Maria, Catch-22. Joseph Heller, absolutely brilliant book. It's going back a bit, but it's one of those books that doesn't date. I mean, it doesn't become old-fashioned. It's always relevant, right? Brilliant. Nice. Some great classics here. Great Gatsby, Zakia. Hey, Zakia, thanks for your messages, by the way, and your support on the messenger. That's great. Great Gatsby. Nice book. Oh, this is a classic. You're all into classic books. How interesting. Oliver Twist. Right. Terence, 1984. Oh, yes. Big Brother is watching you. Very, very good. Lord of the Rings. So there are, of course, books that have been made into films. Or was that? Yes, of course it was a book that was made into films. Of course it was. It was Tolkien, right? Who wrote The Hobbit and all of the others. Binu, this is a nice book. Think and Grow Rich, which I think is Napoleon Hill, if I remember correctly. It's interesting. It's a kind of personal development book. Similar. Oh, I can't show you. Where am I? Why am I not here? I didn't realize I wasn't here. Similar to this one, right? Nice book. Likewise, if you're into financial development and how to secure your financial independence, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Ziuskowski, I think. It was a nice book as well. Yes, I can. Now then, great. Religious books, my favorite. Indeed, for many people, their favorite book, without a doubt, is either the Quran or the Bible or other religious books. Absolutely. Great. Shara, excuse me. Nice. This is very, very true. Historical books, good collocation. Historical books, right? Rather than history books, historical books, as well as personal development books. Yeah. Outliers, I've never read. Ahad. I've seen the TV program or the series. Pablo Escobar, is there a book? Is that an autobiography or a biography? So biography, somebody else writes it. Autobiography, he writes it. Again, the classics. Charlotte Bronte. Jane Eyre is my lovely book. You mean my favorite book? Yes. Now then, how to talk to your kids, which is interesting because this is another book over here that I've got. This is a great book. How to talk to kids so kids can learn at home and in school. It's a must for teachers, and it's also useful for parents. And what's really nice about this book, right, is that it's very practical, it's very hands-on, and it's fun because it gives you scenarios, or if you like, it gives you kind of situations, typical situations where the child and the parent or the adult are talking, and the kind of things people say that often lead to arguments or fighting, and how you can change it. So you can talk about, help children learn not just knowledge, but, ethics, morality, all that kind of stuff. Great book, really, really good. Which is interesting then. Nice, interesting. If you're a parent, this kind of book obviously is very, very useful. Very, very nice. Harsh, I can't share that, I'm afraid. Harry Potter is a fiction book, right? Yeah, absolutely. Yes. J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter, all of them are fictional. They're not real. Some fictional books are based on a true story, but they may not be true. But that one, I think, is just totally fiction, right? Somebody here, Mansour, is into computer science, right? Brilliant, good. My favorite topic for reading is computer science. Why not? Great. We've got Delwar is a voracious reader of thriller novel books. Brilliant. Thriller novels. I love that. Voracious reader, right? Let me add that to our list, because a voracious reader, somebody who reads a lot. That's difficult, right? The r and the l. R. I remember the r by being a bit like a monkey, right? R. You have to put your lips forward, r, and your tongue is between your teeth, r. Read. Strange but true. Voracious reader. It is a bit of a tongue twister. I did lots of tongue twisters on the Fluency Gym video. By the way, the Fluency Gym, you may have noticed, I'm starting to put on YouTube as separate videos, just 10-minute videos, so you can find them more easily and just go in and practice. The last one starts with some quite funny tongue twisters. A voracious reader or an avid reader, right? These are really, really good. I'm a voracious reader or an avid reader. I will come back to these and we will practice more and more and more. Okay, some that I do not know here from Mary. Follow your heart. Brilliant. Andy, the topic is books. Right, me too. I like criminal books. I like crime novels. I don't know if you mean criminal books as in factual or fictional, but I'm into crime novels. Now then, here, Emily, not really. So a magazine is not a book. So no. And because, especially in IELTS, they have separate questions about magazines. Tell me a magazine you've read recently, and it's different language, so don't confuse the two. Only in part 3, you may be contrasting and comparing them, right? Great. What else have we got? Other books? Oh, Paulo Coelho. I think The Alchemist. Absolutely, Lakshmi. It's a great, great book. Good. And Robin Sharma, yes. The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, excellent book. This is, again, personal development, I think. Now, at home, says Khadija. Khadija, I love your avatar. My daughter would like that. She loves those 3 bears. On my bookshelf, I've got books which are related to classical literature. And my favorite one is War and Peace. Holy moly. War and Peace. Tolstoy. War and Peace. That is a heavy read, right? A heavy read. Wow. But a good read, right? So let me share with you some of these words that we're looking at just to help consolidate. Animal Farm. My daughter read that in the last week and was horrified at how horrible the book is, because in Animal Farm, the animals take over the people, but they become even worse than the people at the start. No, don't want that. What are you doing? Here we go. So let me just get my... Okay. So we can talk about skimming a book, skimming through books in the bookstore, right? Because skimming, the whole idea is that you don't read it. you flip through the book. So in the bookstore. So skimming through books in the bookstore to see if you like it, or flipping through a book, or to leaf through a book also, right? Great. We talked about to turn over a new leaf, to start anew, which means to start fresh, especially when you've done something wrong or made a mistake. And so, for example, sometimes in school, the teacher will say to the naughty children, okay, you've made all the mistakes. Now let's turn over a new leaf and start to behave well. A voracious reader, we've got. An avid reader is also another one. Brilliant. So some nice, what are these? Adjectives. But also, notice read, right, is not only a verb, but it's also a noun. A heavy read. It's a noun. It's a great way. Not many people know that, and you will impress if you can say it's a good read, right? Simple as that. It's a good read. It's a noun, right? It's a good read. It's a heavy read. Really, really good language to use. If you want to show your flexibility at Band 7, things like this, right? This book is easy reading. Or even better, this book makes easy reading. Now, these are all simple words, right? But the flexibility to use them really at a high level is not easy. So this book is easy reading. This book makes easy reading. How simple is that? But it's so powerful and natural. So do make a note. If you haven't got a pen and paper, don't worry. I will put these notes on the Facebook group area, and you can download them, or indeed you can go to the website and get them there. Brilliant. That's the website, IELTS Speaking Success. Look for the live lessons tag, and you can button, and you can get them there. Brilliant. Some nice stuff there. Some very, very nice stuff. Okay. Let me come back. Where else have we got? Let me just see what other people I've got. We've got Harry Potter. We've got all Animal Farm, Crazy Rich Asians. Is that a book or a film? Again, it probably is a book. I've only seen I've not seen the film, but I've seen a trailer of the film. The Diary of Anne Frank, brilliant, very nice book. A different kind of diary, Bridget Jones's Diary. Not quite as heavy, not such a heavy read, right? Bridget Jones's Diary makes easy reading, but The Diary of Anne Frank is a heavy read, but enlightening for me. Some lovely books. I love also, this is interesting, right? Because a lot of children's books, we go back and read again and see them in a different way and experience them differently. At the moment, I'm reading some children's books because I've got no books here. All my novels are in a different house. We've moved house and they are in a different place. So the only books I've got here are ones I can borrow from my daughter. And because we're stuck here, we can't go in the car to the other house and get them. We have to stay here. So I've been reading this. It's the supermarket. It's my bookmark. Now, I do have bookmarks, but they've got a habit of growing wings and they disappear. I don't know what happens. Whenever you're looking for a bookmark, right, you can't find it and you take something and you put it in and then you put the book down and then 10 minutes later you see a bookmark on your table. Where, how did that happen? I don't know. So I've been using my local supermarket voucher. Nice book, The Mysterious Benedict Society. Again, the New York Times best-selling series. It's great. So it's a book aimed at children. It's an adventure book. It's about a group of children who make a society, and it's a suspense novel, right? I mean, it's fictional, and they go and try and save the world, basically. They are super talented, and they are trying to penetrate a special school because there is a mad criminal trying to ruin the world. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. The suspense is really high level. It's an engaging and compelling read. So I really recommend it to anybody. Engaging, compelling. It has you on the edge of your seat, right? Some nice language. Again, shall I maybe share the language with you? Yes. Why not, Keith? Why not indeed? Here we go. Let me take away naha. So here, I'll just share some keywords, right? When we're talking about books and novels, especially novels, we can talk about the plot. That's the storyline, right? Storyline. Talk about the setting, which is kind of the background. So where it is, when, where and when. So for example, Harry Potter is set, I don't know when it's set, but where? Well, it's set in England, but there's also a parallel universe, a magical world as well. Characters, so the people, you've often got a protagonist, right? The protagonist is the main character. Often, but not always, the hero. We talked about it's a good read, so I thought The Mysterious Benedict Society is a good read so far. It's easy to read. Here we go. I couldn't put it down. It was so exciting, I couldn't put it down. It had me spellbound, okay? It had me spellbound. I was engaged, like under a spell, literally, like a magician puts a spell on you. Or it was a gripping novel, right? Gripping is nice. Gripping is literally hold in the hand. It holds you. It's a gripping novel. Or I read it from cover to cover, from the front cover to the back cover. If it's a paper book, if it's an ebook, well, yes, actually, you can still say that for an ebook. It's a captivating, great read. It's a captivating read, or it's a great read. It's a captivating read. So notice your stress, right? Captivating. Try with me. What have I done? Help. It's a captivating read. It's a gripping novel. It had me spellbound. And it had an intriguing plot. When you practice, exaggerate. Really exaggerate, because that will help you get it right. It had an intriguing plot, right? Come back. It had an intriguing plot. Look at your face in the mirror as well when you do it. Excellent. So we're talking about favorite books and books. We're going to move on and talk. Well, before we move on, I'm going to show you a couple of tools that will help with vocabulary. Just before I do that, let's have a look at some other books that you like. Oh, Elena, being a doctor, I've no time to read books. That is such a shame. It is such a shame. Hopefully you will do in the future. The Norwegian Bird book, one of the most captivating books I've ever read. Brilliant. One of the most captivating. I love it. Yes. This is interesting. Neha, I'm fond of psychological books as I like landing in the mind of people. Ooh. Kanad is reading the Game of Thrones. Right. Brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. What else have we got? Nice. The Prophet by Khalid Gibran. Excellent. Some good books here. Let me see. What else have we got? Another personal development book by Patel. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Somebody's reading a book on neurology. Great. Can we talk about a reference book? Yes, but reference books, yes, but don't talk about a dictionary or things like that. Possibly other reference books, yes, just make it relevant. Pride and Prejudice, brilliant, yes. And Charles Darwin, oh, nice, great. Charles Darwin, The Kite Runner. I read The Kite Runner, I think about 20 years ago. It's a very, very good book. But again, it's a heavy read. It's quite There's a lot of intrigue and suspense, but it's quite a shocking storyline, right? The plot is quite heavy. Right, brilliant. Agatha Christie and Poirot, brilliant. Now, good question here. How about audiobooks? Well, yes. I mean, so an audiobook is a book that is read aloud. So your focus is on the book, right? It's on the story, the plot of the book. You can mention it's an audiobook, but really talk about the book. Yes. This was an interesting book. Yes, it's a book that touched my heart. Yes, we would normally say it touched me. Rather than it touched my heart, it touched me. Just it had a big emotional impact. Great. Academic books, great. Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Again, Andy, this is quite a classic, right? These, yes, Grace, Personality and Human Behavior books are really, really interesting. Yes. Kiyosaki, that was it. Dad Kill, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Kiyosaki. Sherlock Holmes is another. Great. Do you recommend audiobooks? I mean, absolutely, 110%. I would read. Why? Right? Because reading books is great to build vocabulary and will help your writing skills. To help with your speaking skills, you need to be listening, right? It's not as easy to read things that are written because then it's a difficult skill. But if you hear the words and you practice pronunciation, intonation, picking up the vocabulary, then yes, it's one of the best things you can do. I really, really, really strongly recommend it. So yes, I do. Yes. And here's another one. Poetry books, of course, talk about poetry. Excellent. Good. We've got lots of nice. So we've got some good expressions here. Rima is a bookworm. Somebody who loves books very, very much is a bookworm. Okay. So I am completely lost in your messages. Let me come down. Harry Potter, the 100. Yeah, I saw that a while back. Some of it. I don't know this one. The Salaryman's Wife. Brilliant. Sounds interesting. So let's see. Abhijit, I'm not very fond of reading books, but if I have some spare time, I make sure to read books which can enhance my communication skills. Nice. It's a lovely answer. Very, very nice. So let's move on. And I'm going to show you quickly a couple of tools that I think are quite interesting. Okay. So bear with me. That means be patient. Bear with me. The first one is called related words. Okay. So related words, let me show you. If I could share my screen with you. Related words. Okay. So, and let me take you away here. Related words. It's so simple. It's so nice though. I really, really like it. So how does it work? Well, you just write in a word, okay, and then it gives you words related to that. So it's good for building vocabulary. So let's take the word book, right? Suddenly you find related words like author, text, novel, fiction, right? We've talked about fiction. And if you click on the word, it gives you the definition. A literary work. Literary is a nice word, isn't it? We talked about literature, literacy, and the adjective, a literary work. A literary work, it's hard to say, based on the imagination and not necessarily on fact. So that's great. Fiction. Paperback, somebody mentioned before. Magazine related. Textbooks we've talked about. Novels, right? No definition was found. But what's great here, you can also then get related words to novels. And suddenly you've got, well, examples, Robinson Crusoe, Don Quixote, authors. But you've got different kinds, maybe a biography, right? An account of the series of events making up a person's life. You've got others. A narrative is a nice word. Poetry comes up. So it's interesting, right? Fiction. Then let's get related words here. So if you want to build up some vocabulary, it's quite interesting. Non-fiction, an anthology, a collection of selected literary passages. Thrillers, no term. Science fiction, we talked about sci-fi before, something from outer space maybe. So it's interesting, right? An interesting thing to build up vocabulary. It does go on, right? You want to be careful because it just goes on and on. And lots of these words, bibliomaniacy, I've got no idea about this word. I would have to look it up in a dictionary. So don't get lost in this. But if you just want one or two keywords related, it can be quite useful. Now, if you're then thinking, well, how do I use these words? Well, would you believe it? There's another website called Phrase It. And Phrase It, if you put in a word, will give you a phrase with that word, right? So let's take biography, for example. I've got no idea, but so you take biography and it suddenly gives you, can I make this bigger? Okay, can you see that? It gives you the phrase, a biography by, blah, blah, blah. A significant biography is overdue. Donald Rumsfeld's biography. I read a biography, this biography, a well-researched biography, right? Interesting. So suddenly you just take any word and you can get lots of phrases to see how it's used. How cool is that? You can even put in existing like crime novels and it shows you, look at that. Again, let me make it a bit bigger for you. Himes paved the way for later crime novels. Certain other crime novels are often dismissed. Thrillers and crime novels, a series of crime novels. Suddenly you're getting collocations and you can learn how to use the words as well. So Phrase It and related word, I think quite nice little tools. I will give you the link. I will give you the link here, first of all, right? So that you can get it. But I will also put it in the notes. Phrase It, spelt incorrectly, of course, but so you can remember it. So there you go. Brilliant. It's an interesting site, Mohammed. It is indeed. And the other one that I had for you was related words, which I will also share with you. So they're quite interesting words to go in and have a play with. There was the other one, the related words site. Right, just a couple of tools. Okay, excellent. Now, and I want to change question. We've talked about lots of different kind of words and books and describing books. So there are, in part 3 of IELTS, of course, some more complex questions. And let me ask you these complex questions. Okay, do you think that people read more nowadays than in the past? It's time for tea. Excuse me. Let's see. Brilliant. Zulfi, thank you. Pleased to hear that. Great. So just before these disappear, some nice answers. Yes, due to the lockdown, people read more at present. Nice, good. Yes, they do. I don't think so. Interesting. Actually, I don't think people read more nowadays because this is a good point. People prefer reading ebooks. Very, very true. Great. Damanpreet, yep, because now more and more books are available to be read. That's very, very true, yes. And on a similar theme, as Elish says, actually nowadays people use the phone and the internet more. Put the more at the end, right? They use the phone and the internet more. Great, nice. Sanam says, although a number of people still still interested in reading books, but in comparison to the old days, the number of readers is fewer. The number of readers is, well, there are fewer readers, or the number is less. That's true, is less or lesser. Lesser, no, less. Less. I think people read less nowadays. Good. We read fewer books, but we read less. Well, but more of us are into the internet world. But Quesito, we can read on the internet, right? So even though we read on the internet or blogs, we're still reading, right? So the question is, do we read more? Not do we read more books, but do we read more? So maybe we do. If we're actually reading on our phones and tablets a lot more, we are actually reading more than we did in the past. Because in the past, we only had books, right? We didn't have digital reading. No, because of technology, people don't like to read more nowadays. Well, I would question that. I'm not sure. I know what you're saying, that they play more games, but I wonder, is there any research on this? Do the research and then use that in your IELTS. Let's do. This is the great thing to do, right? This is so easy to do. Let's see what happens if I put this, right, just before I get all your answers. If I put this into okay, I'm going to put this into the website, right? I'm going to go into Google, for example, and let me put in that question in the past. So what do we get? Sorry, let me take you away. We've got, do people read fewer books 30 years ago? Why we don't read, revisited. So why we don't read. Interesting. A little more than a decade ago, I wrote an article. I suspected that people might become less inclined, interesting, less inclined to do fact-checking on there. It's pretty much loose just to ask how many books somebody read last year. The main reason for decreasing the book reading. So this one thinks we read less books. But do we actually read less? This is not helping, is it? No. The way you read books says a lot about your intelligence. Or maybe it does. Yeah, that's not really helping. Okay, so forget that experiment. Sometimes that experiment works really well. Sometimes you put the question and you can get some interesting background and research. Okay, Veronica says, people read more now. Just to make an example, students are always reading books and articles in order to prepare for exams. Yes, that's right. Very, very good. Yes. Dennis reckons that we can, yes, due to these days, people can find more options for reading sources. Yes. Yep. With the advent of technology, people prefer to listen to audiobooks and watch movies rather than reading books. So that, I think, is absolutely true. Yes. But that said, we still read a lot. We do. I think we do. So I think it goes deeper. Yeah, you see, Sophie Fair, that's on a man after my own heart. Or a woman after my own heart. I don't know. Compared to the past, people read more due to the internet. Yes. Yes. Of course, to gain experiences in order to be able to make a solution to gain enough income. Yes. Yeah, this is true. This is true. Because of technological advancements and invention, the internet becomes rare nowadays. Right. So I think that's one argument and very worth developing. But as Terence says, right, I think it depends. right? But this is probably true. By and large, they prefer reading or to read on electronic devices to paper. Good. Prefer to. Nice, Gordon. Very, very nice. And I think you can reference the corona. As Mohit says, I believe that nowadays people are more into reading because of the lockdown. Great. Good. Some great. Oh my God, there are so many good answers here. And I'm going to miss most of them. But I will go back and have a little look. Sarvjit says, significant role is played by ebooks. Yep, absolutely. Okay. And I guess related to that question, and in a way what you're discussing here is this question as well, which is, in what ways has the way we read changed in recent years? Right. Well, compared to the past, people used to be illiterate. Only rich people could be educated. Yes. We read a lot nowadays due to the explosion of the internet as compared to the earlier times. Yep, I think that's a very good argument to develop. Soraya. Well, that's an interesting point, because as we come towards the end, there are two things I'm going to add here. Before we just go into the fluency gym, which today is all about comparisons, as if by magic. So comparing the past and today, Soraya, I have a very simple 3-step approach, right? Begin in the past, right? So say, in the past, we used to da, 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 da. But now things have changed. Present perfect. In the past, we used to read a lot of books, often in the library. But now things have changed. And then talk about today. Today, we tend to read a lot of ebooks. We use technology to access reading material or resources, right? Nowadays, we tend to, we often, we always, we sometimes, by and large, we typically use that kind of language, right? 3 steps. In the past, we used to. Now, things have changed. Nowadays, we tend to, right? Simple 3 blocks that can really help you develop that part 3 comparison question. Throw in an example and you've got a perfect answer, right? Okay, I hope that helps you, Soraya. So guys, because it's time to finish, I'm going to do a very quick fluency gym with you on comparisons, okay? Thank you for the hundreds of messages you've put in. I will pick out a few and add them to the document, the lesson notes, which remember you can get on the website. Look for the live lessons in the navigation bar. In case you're not sure where that is, let me show you, because I say these things and I assume people know, but of course people don't know, because why would you unless you go there regularly? The notes, you can either join the Facebook group, which is great, please do join us. But if you're not sure about that, you want to keep it simple, just go to my website, right? Go to IELTS Speaking.com, click on this one, live lessons, and there you can get, you can actually watch it. You can probably watch me now. I should be playing, I should be streaming. You can get the notes here, right? Get them, just click on the download button and you will get the notes. It's downloaded because it's a Mac. You can get it there. Okay, why am I not streaming? I should be streaming to myself. Bizarre. Right. Let me come back. Excellent. Now, before you all fall asleep, hopefully you're still full of beans. I hope you're still wide awake and full of beans. I'm going to move on. This has got some really interesting. Great, Camila. Thank you very much. Make sure you stay awake for the fluency gym. Okay. So I'm going to look at comparisons. Again, I'm going to work on part 1 questions, comparing things, and show you, well, again, sorry, drink. Focus on intonation and word stress, and just repeat with me. Okay. Yeah. So just repeat with me, and repeat the phrase, and also repeat the DDD, because that is the intonation. That's one of the key things of the fluency gym. So the first question is, do you prefer to use a pen or a pencil? Ready? To be honest, I prefer pens. D-D-D-D. D-D-D-D. To be honest, I prefer pens. Okay, so notice often it's the nouns that we stress. I prefer pens. Okay, next. Because they're smoother than pencils. D-D-D-D-D-D-D-D. Because they're smoother than pencils. And you'll also notice the adjectives and hear the comparison. Because you're comparing, you're stressing extra strongly the comparison word. Because they're smoother, and you stress by making it louder, longer, and heavier. They're smoother than pencils. Again, because they're smoother than pencils. And just much easier to use. D-D-D-D-D-D-D-D. And just much easier to use. That said, pencils are cheaper and last longer. D-D, D-D-D-D-D, D-D-D. That said, pencils are cheaper and last longer. So notice we are slowing down a bit to focus on pronunciation. In the test, you just speak more naturally. Okay, good. Let me just check if you're still there. I think you're still there. Okay, good. Let's move on. Do you prefer to travel by train or plane? Ready? I usually travel by train. D-D-D-D-D-D-D. I usually travel by train. Because it's far more comfortable than a plane. D-D-D-D-D-D-D-D-D. Because it's far more comfortable than a plane. It's also way cheaper. D-D-D-D-D-D. It's also way cheaper. So that's a nice word to use when you're emphasizing comparisons. Way cheaper, much cheaper, far cheaper, way, W-A-Y, way cheaper. Nice, hey? One more. Do you prefer a long break or several short breaks? Ready? Generally speaking, D-D-D-D-D. Generally speaking, I'd rather take short breaks. D-D-D-D-D-D. I'd rather take short breaks. They're far better for my concentration and productivity. D D D D D D D D D D D D D D. They're far better for my productivity and concentration. Great. I'm laughing because I think it's so much fun to say D D D D D. It really does work, right? It helps focus on the intonation, but it's so funny. Great. Okay. T or d. For me, it's a d, the second one, d. But you can use anything. You can say la la la, la 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 la, lu 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 lu, whichever works for you. That's exactly right. They are far better. Well done. You've got it. Brilliant. Good vibes, good vibes. Great. Several short breaks if I'm engaged in physical activity. But notice what I'm doing is I'm showing off my comparison language, right? So this is great. Several short breaks if I'm engaged in physical activities because they are better, bigger, show off your comparisons. Great. Oh, I hope you will have fun, Mohit. If you have fun, it's going to help you. Seriously, it is scientifically proved that stress stops learning and relaxation and fun helps learning without a doubt. And above all, in tests. Absolutely. Padju. Da. Yes. What is d? Ranjit, it's a new word I've just invented. It doesn't exist. It's just a way to focus on the sound. Do you know, like when you listen to music and you go dee 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 dee, and it helps you carry the melody. You're doing the same with English. You're carrying the melody. Dee 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 dee, carrying the melody. Dee 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 dee. You're focusing on the intonation. That's what the Fluency Gym is all about. It's intonation. It's pronunciation, but the practice improves your fluency too, and your grammar, and gives you some nice answers for part one. It's like the perfect study technique. Thank you very much, Lynn. Yes. Yeah, somebody's going for la 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 la. Listen, guys, great. Catherine, I'm glad you like it. Go and have a look at I'll do more videos so you can just repeat and repeat. The secret is in the practice, right? The secret is in the practice. Fluency comes with practice. You can never practice enough. And now that we've got the lockdown, what a great time to just go in and listen and practice again. How do I reduce my pauses? Sajid, practice. Practice. Thank you very much, DM. Yeah, me too. I enjoyed today. Satyajit, I thought it was a lot of fun. From the books to the websites to the language and to the DDD. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Keep practicing. You are getting better. And hats off to you. I show my respect to all of you for coming week after week, practicing, showing up. I really appreciate it. I think you're fantastic. I really do. I'm very proud to be your teacher here on YouTube and Facebook. Great. I'm going to sign off. Thank you very much. It's been a bit longer than usual, but I hope you've enjoyed it and learned something new. Take care. Enjoy enjoy what? Enjoy the rest of the week. That's what I wanted to say. And we'll be looking at some new topics next week. I'm thinking about, let me tell you what I'm thinking about for next week, and then tell me if you're happy with these. Some ideas that have come up from the last, in the Facebook group: ecology and conservation, video games, computers and AI. Those might be some topics for next week. So get your thinking caps on, start thinking, get prepared, and I'll see you there. In the meantime, have a beautiful day. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.